All right, I think we just hit it. We just hit it, everybody. We can all calm down. It's okay. We just hit it. We hit the benchmark. Oh my god. It's gonna work. Good enough. Good enough. All right. What the hell? Yeah. All right. That works. Does it? All right. Maybe we just let this fall down. I think that's fine. That's good enough. All right, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? No, there are no late points being awarded. There are no late points being awarded. I did hit the mark, so we are okay. We are okay. No late points are going to be awarded today. Hope y'all are doing all right. All right, all right. Just hit that late point. No, we missed the late point. We missed the late point. All right, all right. Yeah, how's everybody doing? We're talking about the One Piece live action officially today. Now that I'm done watching it, y'all are done watching it, and my review's out, yeah, we can talk about the One Piece live action. That's the idea. Sorry, my contacts are settling real quick. We got to talk about that hair first. I'll get a haircut next week. Time change within an hour should count as one late point, but that wasn't within an hour. I think I changed the time like an hour and a half ago. I think I'm good. That's not 1 point. That's not what. It's definitely not 2 points. It's definitely not 2 points. What do you mean it's 1 or 2 points? That's insane. That's insanity. Here, look. Do we have enough naysayers? Do I need to prove it? Grow your hair out? See, we already did that. We already tried that. But the thing is, I have someone in my friend group who he grew his hair out, and then he came back with this thing. What is it? It's like a hairband, but it's like a curvy hairband. And then he was wearing that, and I was like, wait, this is the secret to making it work before you get to the truly long hair phase. So now I'm considering going for it again. It's solid, although I saw some One Piece YouTubers saying it's a 5 because it doesn't compare to shows like Breaking Bad or The Wire, lol. Is that me? Does that include me? I'm curious, like, I don't know what the overall sentiment is on Season 2. I'm guessing it's positive from what people are implying, at least in the comments. I think what I realized, so, like, what's funny is, when I put out the review of Season 2, my review was more critical than the first time around, but it seems like people really, really love the show, and they really push back on criticism in the comments, right? It's because, but if you see the viewership for my Season 1 review versus the Season 2 review, there's a big gap in viewership, and that's just because it's self-selecting. So people who actually really like the One Piece live action, everybody kind of watched the first season, right? Because everybody's curious. All One Piece fans are curious what's going on here. Like, did this work? How good is it, right? So my Season 1 review has a lot more views than my Season 2 review. Because what happens is everyone watches Season 1, then they go see the reviews, yada yada. For Season 2, self-selects in the sense that if you didn't really like the One Piece live action in general, you're less likely to then watch Season 2, right? So Season 2 is generally going to be skewed more towards viewers who already liked the One Piece live action well enough that they wanted to keep going, right? So I think there was a lot of pushback at critiques that I had, which again, it's fine to push back on critiques. You can critique the critiques, etc. But I think there was a lot of pushback. I almost feel like if I go back to the Season 1 comments, it's a bit more mixed, where Season 2 comments are overall much more positive, and I think that's just because, but the viewers on my Season 2 reviews are significantly lower, and I think that's just a consequence of, well, Season 1, Season 1, anybody wanted to try it. Season 2, a lot of people who are One Piece fans just didn't bother with if they didn't really enjoy it as much, you know? I didn't rate it out of 5 stars. It's really hard for me to rate out of 5 stars. Okay, like if I were to rate it out of 5 stars as like my actual enjoyment of it, it'd be like a 4 at least, because I love One Piece and I had a lot of fun watching it. Like because it's One Piece, right? So I'm excited to see how it does each new arc, each new episode. I'd say at least a 4 for me. Like when it came out, Loguetown was the only episode where I was just like, oh man, this is actually going to be a bit difficult to get through if every episode is like this. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get through. So Loguetown worried me. And I'm not going to... So where it started to hook me is partway through episode 2. Episode 2, I thought the going up the reverse mountain was very well done. I should have talked about that more in my review. I talk about it in the supplementary podcast. But reverse mountain, going up that... Okay, so the initial scenes where the crew ends up in in Laboon, and Luffy's initial scenes with Crocus, it was starting to lose me because I was just like, this is not exciting. I know this is canon as a manga reader, but I'm just like, if I was a live action only, I feel like this show would be losing me right now because this is not fucking exciting, right? By the end of episode 2, I was like, this is good. This is good. They did Reverse Mountain better than the source material. And then from Whiskey Peak on, I think I kept wanting to hit the next episode. Okay, so I watched the whole thing in 2 days. 3 days. 3 days. Monday, Tuesday. No, sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I watched the whole thing in 3 days. So I definitely enjoyed it. So for me, it's like at least 4 stars out of 4 stars out of 5. Is it like truly one of my favorite shows ever? Probably not. Probably not. But I did thoroughly enjoy watching it. Okay. Now, if I was going in blind, right? I'd never tried One Piece before. I would stick with the show. And I said I would view it as a guilty pleasure because I would. Like, everything feels really, really corny. Not corny, but like, like amateurish. And like, you could say amateurish and goofy in a fun way, but you can the thing is that then it also tries to do serious things, right? So it's not like full camp. It's also trying to do some serious scenes, right? So I just don't take those scenes. If I'm just a pure live action viewer, those scenes don't actually hit as that serious to me because it's just done so, YouTube fan video style, right? So that's where but I think I would still be into it because I'd be like, well, the fights are really good and the characters are fun and the world is kooky, right? The world is kooky and silly. And the abilities are cool. And it seems like we got some strong opponents on the horizon. So I would definitely keep watching. I think I'd just be kind of like, I'd have to look past so much stuff that I'm just like, are we for real right now? Like, is this a real scene that they're trying to do? I think if you just compare to Wednesday is a natural comparison because it's Netflix's other big, you could say Wednesday or Stranger Things or whatever. And I got tons of critiques for Wednesday or Stranger Things, but if you just put up scenes side by side between One Piece live action to those, it's like, forget the sets, right? Just how those scenes are shot, paced, edited, it's so much more dramatic, like sincerely dramatic in those shows than the One Piece live action. There's a big gap in direction quality. There's a big gap, right? But I think I'd look past that for the cool action stuff and the abilities and stuff. Like if I was watching it as a blind viewer, I'd probably rate it 3 out of 5 stars, maybe a bit more, maybe 3.5 out of 5 stars. As a One Piece fan, I have it at 4 stars, maybe 4.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know. Tio, thanks to the 2. You think more seasons equals diminishing returns? No, I think this is a show that can really get stronger and stronger with more seasons. I think it can get a lot stronger. Virgil Hawkins says, Morge, you missed my Miss Pirate King. You skipped my Miss Pirate King question from last month? What the hell is going on? Oh my god. Hold on, let me just make a note for my virtual assistant right now. So it would be your Pirate King podcast question from February. Um, Please check on Virgil Hawkins's Pirate King podcast question from February. He said. Okay, yours will be the first one answered in the next batch. Sorry about that. Yours will be first in the next batch. Did I prefer anything over the manga? Yeah, a lot of... Okay, so I think Loketown generally was way worse than the manga. Like, Loketown, they botched horrendously. It was genuinely terrible. To the point that, like, Loketown straight up had no... Like, generally what the live action has done that I appreciate, it's good for TV writing, is they try and center each arc around... a theme, and that theme doesn't have to line up with the manga's theme. It's what the arc kind of wants to do, like what the live action wants to do. So I've appreciated that. And sometimes the themes are a little different. Like Reverse Mountain, they did a lot stronger. Like they made Reverse Mountain so much stronger. They actually focused on Laboon's bond with Crocus more than anything. Like Laboon's bond with Crocus and having lost his old crewmates, but having created a new bond with Crocus. And then also with the Straw Hat Pirates now, but it was much better writing than the manga. I think Reverse Mountain is kind of whatever arc in the manga, personally. Loketown had nothing, because Loketown it's straight up stupid, because like not stupid, stupid's the mean word to say, but it's just bizarre. Loketown in the manga, it's an arc about destiny and fate, right? So there's a lot of gravitas and mystique to the storyline, right? But in Loketown, in the live action, they threw all that away. So like Loketown in the manga and anime has this impending storm that's brewing. In the live action, it's mentioned a couple times, but you almost don't feel any sense of atmosphere whatsoever, right? So that sort of building, brewing, wind, and atmosphere is almost entirely absent. It just feels like a town, like just a night. Oh, Nami's mentioning there's some wind, there's some rain or something. I'm assuming it's a budget thing or whatever, right? But the Destiny angle is just completely gone. Like Buggy's dialogue to Luffy at the execution stand, it doesn't evoke any of that, right? I forget what the exact dialogue was, but I was like, that's not even close to what Loketown's. It's just like trying to force some other message in here that doesn't really fit. And then Zoro's line with the swords straight up throws out this easy thematic thread for Loketown, which is like, it's supposed to be like, what's stronger, this sword's curse or my luck? Something along those lines, right? But instead Zoro says, this sword's curse or my will. And I remember, I even saw some people commenting like, that's good because it foreshadows Haki. It's like, foreshadowing Haki is not nearly as important right now as telling a coherent story in this moment. Like, this is supposed to be about shaping the Straw Hat's destiny. That's what makes Loketown such a powerful, short storyline. It's like an arc heavily laced with, the roads of fate, the building destiny, etc. They cut Dragon's lines, yada, yada. Now, I am okay with the live action taking creative liberties, right? Like, you don't have to copy things one-to-one with the manga. Like I said, Reverse Mountain, they went a different angle, and it was better, right? So I'm just saying the flip side with Loketown, it's okay if you want to cut the Destiny stuff and just cut off that. But then they replaced it with nothing, because Loketown, that episode has just no real focus. It's like Luffy runs into Bartolomeo for some reason and walk around with Bartolomeo, a random-ass character that live-action viewers have no sort of reason to care about. Then he runs into Buggy, and so Buggy's very randomly, again, the main boss of Loketown with very minimal setup. But then it's just like, okay, now he's running to Smoker, and then Dragon, and then Zoro's talking to Tashigi instead. Like, there's just no sort of thread through it. So, like, Loketown, I'd say, is worse, right? Reverse Mountain, way better. Luffy fighting Laboon to make friends was, like, always kind of like... And, like, Laboon becomes his friend in, like, 2 minutes back then. Like, in the manga, was always kind of, like, I think, kind of very simplistic writing by Oda. Like, even if you want to compare in terms of, like, storylines of Luffy making friends with animals, right? It's not even one of the the better ones. Like Luffy and Chocho is significantly better, right? I always feel like Laboon is more gassed up by the fandom because of the Brook connection later, but the live action does such a great job with like the fact that we got Brook in the live action and everything that it did with the rumbar parts was amazing. Hearing the song interpretation in the live action, I really loved. One of my favorite shots from the live action is live action Brook, like, playing that song for Laboon up there. Like, I think they did all of that beautifully. I think it's stuff that would make me care even if I wasn't a prior One Piece fan. And then Luffy's song to make Laboon, to befriend Laboon, just such a better choice than the fight. Such a better choice than the fight. That was, like, low-key. I should have harped on this more in the review. I think that was actually the live action at its best, where it can really pull from future material and bring that back into play here, but also play on the fact that it's writing a more vulnerable and human Luffy in this storyline by, again, Luffy connecting some of his own past troubles to Laboon's past troubles and paralleling them. It's just really, really good, smart TV writing. Iñaki Godoy's dance is very endearing to me. I think it's a great, great goofy little dance that he does. I loved what they did with Reverse Mountains. Reverse Mountain really ratcheted up my enjoyment of the live action and my respect for it. Whiskey Peak's a lot of fun. There's also little touches that they do with Whiskey Peak that's a lot of fun, like how each Straw Hat is entertained by Whiskey Peak in different manners. Obviously, this parallels the manga, but they just do it well. But again, there's just this sort of goofy cheapness to, like, when they walk into Whiskey Peak and, like, how the villagers act and everything like that. And yeah, it's a fake town, so it's supposed to be like that, but we're not supposed to know it's fake right off the bat, right? So it just feels kind of ridiculous from the beginning. Like, it feels like there's very minimal effort put into making it feel like a real town. It's just like, that's the thing that feels consistent throughout the One Piece live action. I get there's budget constraints. I get that there's all that. But there's ways that you can present things that are a little bit sharper, right? I feel like there's ways that things could be presented that don't make it feel as goofy and cheap, in my opinion. But that's just kind of the way that it goes. It just feels kind of amateurish, Like, here's a town because there's people walking around. I don't know. And I think that Season 1 did a much better job. I think Season 1 did a way, way, way better job with that. But Whiskey Peak, a lot of fun. I think Whiskey Peak was an improvement over the manga as well overall. Or I think it evens out. I think the manga does a good job. It's the way it paces out the spread of information in Whiskey Peak is better. I'd say Whiskey Peak here still feels a little bit rushed. I don't think it would have hurt to get a rundown of I've noticed this is a thing, and I feel like this is wrong, but I've noticed this is a thing in live action TV shows and movies, and I think it's fundamentally wrong. Okay? So, and it's mainly with Western live action TV shows and movies. So, I believe that there is this philosophy that Hollywood has, which is like anytime they're trying to explain things that are a little bit, what's the word? So things that are either power-based or like world-building based or things like that, I think that there's this hesitance to there's this fear. I think there's this innate fear that viewers are going to get bored and not listen. Okay? So I've noticed this, that exposition in Hollywood for anything, like any movies, whatever, you can see it in the MCU, you can see it wherever, Game of Thrones, whatever. They feel like it always has to be in the flow of other things. Okay? So by that I mean in comparison, in One Piece, some of our favorite, in the manga and anime, right, some of our favorite things are when characters just sit down and for like a chapter or like 5 pages or something, explain world stuff or explain power stuff, right? Like the explanation of the three great powers of the sea, right? That's really cool to just get a simple sit-down explanation for, right? The explanation of the Warlords of the Sea. That's a great thing to just get a sit-down explanation for, right? Live action stuff is very hesitant to do that. They always want it to be like in the flow of other things happening, like just names being dropped or quick explanations and things like that. Like there's just this fear that audiences will get bored with that sort of thing. I think that that's a fear based on the simple fact that for a long time, like Western audiences have grown up with like more straightforward action adventure fantasy setups rather than like very different from Japanese anime, where like Jujutsu Kaisen will sit down for like 2 chapters straight just explaining like the intricacies of domain expansion bullshit or whatever, right? Like in the West, the most you got in terms of like fantasy that's not like actually like thick books that you're reading, like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, like it's like dabbling in stuff like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, but even in those movies, it's trying not to bore viewers with too much exposition. And if they are doing exposition, they feel like it has to be accompanied with a lot of visuals, right? So it's a very long roundabout way of me saying that like in Whiskey Peak in the manga, we got a really nice sit-down chapter of just Vivi explaining the state of Alabasta, who Mr. Zero is, how the organization of Baroque works, the fact that Crocodile is a warlord of the sea, them reiterating what the warlords of the sea are, Crocodile's former bounty, yada yada. Like, it's a full chapter of that. I think that for live action TV, they're like, that's probably too much information that viewers will get bored of just like listening to a conversation of, so let's keep it moving. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that viewers would find that really interesting if they were just willing to sit down and do it, but I think that is just a thing that I've noticed, you know? Zolden, thanks for the 5. Zora versus 100 is clearly the best fight in the entire show and makes me wonder if the one-on-one fights will ever be able to live up to fights like that. I think they definitely will. And Zora versus 100 Bounty Hunters at Whiskey Peak is way cooler in the live action than it is in it's way cooler in the live action than it is in the manga or the anime, for sure. Yeah, they're reversed to exposition dumps. They're reversed to exposition dumps, especially if they feel like those exposition dumps are getting too far into, like, fantasy world-building stuff. Plume Black Hat says, it's the philosophy show, don't tell. Yeah, but then the thing is that with, like, they're not afraid to do that with, what do you call? Show, don't tell is very, very... how to explain? It applies best to things like, here's an example. Drum Kingdom, I talked about in my review. Drum Kingdom was a great example of where they needed to show more, right? When you're telling people things like that are meant to move you emotionally, right? It's generally a lot better to show. Drum Kingdom, they did very well, but I'm saying that fundamentally they were limited in some ways, right? So, for example, we're told Chopper, like, you can't go to the Valley of Death because it'd be really difficult to go to the Valley of Death to get that mushroom, right? In the anime, like in the manga, we actually see Chopper going through the struggles to get that mushroom, right? We see how beat up he is. We see what he forces himself to go through to get the mushroom, right? That's really strong because being shown what a character has to go through is a lot more powerful than just being told. Like, what we saw in the live action is Chopper leaves the door, then he comes back looking beat up with the mushroom, and they're first we're told the Valley of Death is very dangerous. No one can come back there. Chopper exits, enters the door again, this time all beat up with the mushroom. They're like, oh my god, the Valley of Death, which is super, you die there or whatever. You got through it. That's really, really crazy, right? It's, we get the idea. It's called the Valley of Death, but it's so much more powerful to actually see Chopper go through all that and then, the consequences, right? Same thing with, like, us being told over and over, like, how do we save this nation, the hearts of this nation? It's like, we've never seen people from this nation. It's a hypothetical nation. The first time we really get a good look, we get, like, one shot showing some citizens of Drum Kingdom when they first enter. That's pretty much it, right? Like, we're just told that this nation is suffering. We're told that this nation is going through a lot. We don't actually see it, right? So that's where show don't tell really matters, right? When you're trying to bring out emotions. for exposition is normal. Like, it is normal to have exposition to explain things about the way things are, like to explain objective truths about the world, right? So it's true to some degree, but a lot of the most interesting conversations in anime, manga, etc. are just like characters explaining and revealing things, right? And if they want to show don't tell, they can show silhouettes, they can show glimpses of Warlords of the Sea, they can do stuff like that, you know? People are saying that the Whiskey Peak action was better in the manga. Okay, so I'll definitely give you, again, this is scene direction stuff, like the shot against the moon, like just simple things that can be done for dramatic effect. The One Piece live action just doesn't do. But I think action choreography is just generally cooler in like unless you're like top tier animation, like let's say some Jujutsu Kaisen fights or Demon Slayer fights or something like that. Like action choreography is generally, for a more grounded battle like that too, I think it's just generally cooler in live action than it is animated, right? Unless it's like top tier animation, which early One Piece doesn't have. So like you can say which one's better, I don't know, you can debate it all day, but if you were to ask me straight up, which Whiskey Peak Zora versus the 100 Bounty Hunters would you rather go back and watch? I'm going to go back and rewatch the live action one. I'm not going to go back and rewatch the anime one. Like, I mean, I would. It's kind of fun in its own way, but it's cooler in live action. Like, I would straight up say this. One Piece, I've said this in the review, and it still holds true. The One Piece live action has the best action choreography of any TV show I can think of. I'm sure there's plenty of ones I haven't seen, like Rings of Power or whatever the fuck. But yeah, it has phenomenal action choreography. Generally, action choreography for anything is gonna it's gonna be inherently tied to, it's gonna scale with how good the actors themselves are at combat, right? So when you have actors, like that's why Jackie Chan movies have great action, because when the actors can actually fight, it just makes shooting an action scene infinitely easier. You don't have to do as many cuts. You don't have to do as many camera tricks to hide that it's a stunt double. You can make things a lot more fluid, keep it going, right? Makinyu and Taz Skylar, they both, like Makinyu already did a lot of like sword choreography training for past roles, so he already had that down. And Taz Skylar has done a shit ton of training in terms of kicks and stuff like that. Their action scenes are good. It's a lot better than other TV shows' action scenes because they inherently have a significant advantage coming in with what they can do action-wise. I think Hollywood is pruning manga/anime to their standards rather than adjusting themselves to the manga material. But that is why the One Piece live action doesn't fail, because Oda is behind the wheel. So all of Hollywood's like bad instincts, like, oh, they're not going to want to learn about like the 7 Warlords of the Sea. Oda's probably like being like, no, they will fucking like that shit. We are including that, you know? Thomas, thanks for the 10. What's your thoughts of introducing the road poneglyph in Alabasta? No time skip marine forward. We take down Emu with the Stride crew. I don't think that's happening. I don't know. I think that they are just going to naturally progress the plot as it goes and see how far they can go. You know, like I think basically the way it would likely work is, as long as the show is successful and keeps growing an audience and making money, there's no incentive for them to pull the plug, you know? The only things that would stop it would be if the One Piece live action actors actually start getting really big roles. And I don't know what their contracts look like, but if they start getting really big roles and deals and stuff like that, that then interfere with their ability to shoot, that's when the plug might be pulled. And I know it's a common thing where actors, after they start to grow, they in notoriety or whatever, they don't want to be tied to a single show after a certain point. Like I mentioned Wednesday before. Jenna Ortega became a really big breakout star thanks to Wednesday, and so they're wrapping the show. Even though it's very successful, they're having to wrap the show, I think, in the next season or two or something like that, because they can't really, like the main couple of actors are not, going to be available in the future, right? I think similarly, Game of Thrones, the actors, especially the young actors, were like, we got our big break. We want to spread our wings and grow and become big stars after this. So, like, they're itching to move on, right? Now, did they succeed? I don't think so. I don't fucking see Arya Stark. Oh, no, Sophie Turner, right? She's gotten some roles, right? And so has Gwendolyn Christie. Like, so some of them have made the jump and stuff, but yeah. I missed your membership. Sorry, Thomas Davis. Give me a second. Oh, Taptio said, I meant for views on each season review getting smaller. More seasons equals... I'm probably going to get my review out for each season, just because, like, I enjoy getting... I want to talk about the live action. That's fun for me to talk about. So I'm still going to get out a review. I think the only thing I would change is I would try and get it out faster. So the sooner you can get it to the One Piece live action release, the better. The reason we had to shoot for like for this one, I would have loved to try and push it to a Friday or Thursday release to speed things up. But we had a sponsor who specifically, the plan is to go up on Saturday. So we went up on Saturday. But I think I'm going to do a review regardless. And I'm genuinely excited about Alabasta. This season gave me hope that they can pull off Alabasta well. And the pacing was strong. Thomas Davis, thanks for being a Yonko team member for 34 months. Hey, Mo, did you see the comment I left on the Yonko podcast? If so, thoughts? It's a bit long, but not too bad. Just can't get into One Piece live action. Let's take a look at Thomas's comment. Let's see. So the Yonko podcast that I just put out went hand in hand, of course, with the One Piece live action. It was basically all the extended thoughts. I'm not going to lie. I was a little harsher in the podcast because it's to a smaller base, So let's see. It says 0 comment. Or did he comment on the Patreon one? Let me see. Let's see. Hold on. I see a comment from Strife. I don't see a comment from you, Thomas. Oh, no, I see it. I see Thomas. Oh, and Virgil Hawkins, I see your other comment as well. Okay, so Thomas said, this might sound pretentious, but I think fans of One Piece live action just have different artistic values to people who don't like it. One Piece was made for 2D in a lot of ways even other manga aren't. Making it 3D alone is a massive compromise on the value of the original that I'm not sure even Oda himself sees. No hate to anyone who likes it, obviously, but I'm not willing to accept all the huge compromises it makes. Okay, so here's what I would say. To that. I don't think I fully agree. I think there's definitely aspect, because like even if you read the average manga, One Piece is even more cartoony than the average manga, right? It's even more cartoony than the average manga. But I think that's one of the reasons it can work that's one of the reasons it can work in live action format in a way that other animes have struggled to, because I think that's a common problem where like you see the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender that M. Night Shyamalan put out, or like the Cowboy Bebop and stuff like that, and like it just looks too goofy and fake. But One Piece can kind of get away with being somewhat cartoony. So like when you watch it in live action, it's like this is really goofy and campy, but it fits the vibe in a way that wouldn't work if this was like Naruto or Bleach, that takes itself a little bit more seriously, like Yu Yu Hakusho, stuff like that. that takes itself a bit more seriously than One Piece than One Piece would. But I definitely agree. It can't live up to the true essence of the One Piece manga and anime, but you can get a lot of the similar stories out of it, and the stories hold up. So I agree with you to some degree. Thomas, we covered this. Kunal Dushingwall, thanks a lot. I think I might be the only one who didn't like the Zoro versus 100 Bounty Hunter scene. I prefer the anime comedy aspect more, but from a new viewer's eyes, it makes sense to keep the tension high. Yeah, I think that's especially because this whole season, right, is not going to conclude in Alabasta. If you read the Baroque Works saga in the manga, it's not a very high difficulty storyline for the Straw Hats until they get to Alabasta. So like Laboon's whatever, then Whiskey Peak frames itself as very difficult, but the Straw Hats actually have a walk in the park, and the hardest fight Luffy and Zoro have is against one another, right? The other half of the crew just sleeps through the night, Then Little Garden is difficult, but because they get tricked, right? So it's clear that Mr. 3, at least in Little Garden, cannot fight, like Mr. 3 and them, they can't fight the Straw Hats straight up, right? So they manage to get the jump on, like they do a lot of cheap stuff to get ahead. And then Drum Kingdom, again, walk in the park for Luffy and the Straw Hats. Wapple's like a gag villain, right? So this is all in the anime. And then it's Alabasta. When Alabasta starts, that's when things get hard for Luffy and for the Straw Hats, and then things get kind of crazy, right? But in TV, you can't just, like we've been waiting 3 years for this season, Like people who liked season 1 have been waiting 3 years for this season. Like, this is our lives, Like, this is, you can't just be like, well, wait till season 3. It's like, I waited 3 years for this season. Again, this is the mind of a live action viewer, right? And I don't want 8 episodes of the Straw Hats clowning on Baroque Works agents and, only losing the, like, cheap tricks once in a while or whatever. And then we conclude the season with a low diff of Wapple, right? So they had to amp everything somewhat. And I think they made good decisions with that. Down to, again, I was talking about good changes the live action made. The inclusion of Mihawk, really good choice. Including Mihawk is just a great decision because I feel like it's almost something that we've all talked about more, like talked about in the anime and manga. Like, it'd be nice if the Straw Hats focuses on their dreams were emphasized more. Now, usually that's not a problem for Zoro because Oda likes to bring up Zoro's dream frequently relative to the other Straw Hats. Luffy talks about his dream every arc, right? But Oda still does that with Zoro. But having Mihawk, like, it made 2 great decisions with Zoro's journey. First, having Mihawk kind of judging Zoro in the Whiskey Peak fight and everything like that. I like that. And then it just reminds you that this isn't just like, because in the anime and manga, the Whiskey Peak fight for Zoro was just like, Oda just felt like giving Zoro a fight, The excuse could be, well, it was to test out his 2 new swords, but, like, I'm pretty sure Zoro could have fucked him up without those. He could have used the swords from East Blue, right? So it's just like Zoro's just it was practically fan service for Zoro. Like, something like that would never happen today. Like, you know what? Like, this chapter, I feel like letting Sanji fight, like, all the Tobiropo or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's just, nowadays, Oda's so sparse with the fights. Back then, he would do things because they're fun. But here in the TV show, it found a way to incorporate it, like, still keep it in the show, obviously, but also make it character relevant. Like, it's not just Zoro having a walk in the park, it's Zoro actually pushing himself, and, like, I like the decision to make him keep climbing up the levels and everything like that. Mihawk kind of driving him. And then the second good decision with Zoro's writing was at Little Garden, foreshadowing the future steel conflict that Zoro's going to have. Because Zoro can't free himself in Little Garden because his leg is stuck in steel. I think that's really good. It establishes, okay, there's limits to what Zoro can do, and it sets a clear benchmark for why the Mr. 1 fight's going to be really cool for him. I'm not saying you're wrong if you prefer the manga version of the Whiskey Peak fight. It's just like, I'm not, like, if you told me, hey, you can reread it in the manga, watch it in the anime, or watch the live action version, which do you think you would find coolest? I'd be like, the live action version, please. That's me personally. Zolden, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Nika name drop and no God Elbaf mention? So there can't be a God Elbaf mention because the writer, the writers would not have known at that point in time that God Elbaf's going to be really important, right? Because this was all written at least a year ago or whatever, right? So they couldn't have known because like God Elbaf was mentioned in Little Garden, obviously, but it was never mentioned again to the point that I put out a full theory video towards the start of Elbaf explaining why God Elbaf is still important. And you can look in the comments, there's plenty of pushback against that, which is just like, no, Morge, that was just something that Oda was talking about way back then. That doesn't need to be important in Elbaf now. Or people are like, nah, it was retcon to be the sun god, etc. So it makes sense that they wouldn't include the mention of God Elbaf because we only just, 2 weeks ago learned, got confirmation that God, like, Elbaf is a really legitimate, important part of the sun god's culture. Like, this could easily have been the writers just being like, well, we want to have them reference their god, but, we're so far in the story. Obviously, the sun god's what's important. That's what the giants really care about, so we're going to have the sun god. Now, you might say, well, Oda was supervising, right? Oda was supervising, so he would have told them, say God Elbaf, right? But two things. One, I think for ease of understanding for viewers, right? God Elbaf might not even be mentioned for the viewers, like, once we get to the Elbaf arc, right? But the sun god, we know is going to keep coming up through the story, right? Like, they could easily write the Elbaf arc without even referencing the previous user of the Nidhogg fruit. That's not whatever, right? The sun god is obviously going to be referenced probably more and more throughout the live action, so you don't want to confuse viewers too much with like multiple deities when it's really going to be one that's going to be important, and the sun god is important to the Giants of Elbaf, right? And two, Oda probably didn't know what chapter, like imagine if season 2 of the One Piece live action, like Oda doesn't have his chapters perfectly planned out, right? So keep this in mind. Think about this. Imagine if season 2 of the One Piece live action got a release date in January instead of March of this year. So it comes out in January. Dory's talking about how important the God Elbaf is. Then that might be a tip-off for viewers like, wait, maybe God Elbaf, like Oda signed off on this. Maybe God Elbaf is going to be really important in the Elbaf arc because like Oda's not retconning this. Like some people argued that Oda had retconned the significance of God Elbaf because the Giants hadn't been talking about it for like the last 40 chapters, right? They just mentioned it for the first time again the last 2 chapters, right? So that, like, either way, it's a lose-lose where it's like, you mention it and the season comes out too early, and then it's just like, well, shit, Oda's kind of tipping off to the readers that, yeah, God Elbaf is going to stay relevant in the story, right? He doesn't want to spoil that too much. But at the same time, if you are mentioning God Elbaf, and, let's say it came out, in March after Oda's already covered that material in the manga, well, then now you have the potential of like confusing live action viewers when really you want to be priming live action viewers for one god, the sun god, and then other relevant gods can come up later in the story, Ignorant Weed, thanks for the 10. Mocking UW. It's so fascinating to me how much silly moments of Zoro add to his character. In the early anime, there was filler running gag of Luffy always accidentally throwing Zoro off the ship. Funny as fuck. Yeah, I kind of remember that stuff. Yeah, Mocking was the funniest actor this season. I think he was funny in season 1, but very funny here in season 2. Like, legitimately, I think... How do I say this? In Loketown, I was feeling kind of cynical because, like, they dropped, like, 10 jokes. I think Loketown, the comedy was also really bad. Loketown, they dropped a shit ton of jokes, and they went, I think, poorly every time. Zoro had, like, 3 jokes in Loketown, and they all hit. Like, there were jokes about haggling and stuff like that, but his delivery's really, really good. So I was like, all right, well, at least they got something good going there. And then I think the comedy picked up as the season went on. He was too serious in season 1? No, season 1, they were all coming together. Like, season 1, they were all coming together. So, like, their guards are up. They're not just, like, buddy-buddy right away. They're still learning to trust one another. So I think that worked in season 1. People had pushback about me saying that Nami was too mean this season. Um, I guess your mileage may vary. I thought Nami was great season one because like it made sense. They're all mean. Like Nami doesn't trust these people, right? She's got a lot of, she's got her guard up, etc. So it makes sense that she's kind of mean, rude, etc. But literally episode one, like now they've saved her village, saved her. They're all family, yada yada. They're bonded together. I think like the first conversation of the Straw Hats in season two was like Usopp asking like really normal questions to Nami and Nami being genuinely mean. I don't understand how people are like, oh no, that's not her being mean. That's like whatever. I'm like, no, this is just mean. He would ask her a question like, this is paraphrasing. I don't know if this was exactly it. It was like, why do we have to go to Logtown? And then she'd basically be like, you fucking moron. We have to go to Logtown because like we can't we need to go there before we're able to go up Reverse Mountain. Otherwise this thing won't work or whatever. It's like, well, that's a normal question. How would Usopp know that? And then he's like, okay, well, Logtown's safe, like, right? And then she's like, you idiot. It's the biggest marine base in East Blue. It's like, why is she treating him like shit for no reason? I'm serious. Just go back, watch that conversation. I'm like, I can't imagine viewers watching that and being like, no, this isn't. She's not being a jerk. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And people are like, no, but that's balanced out because like she says nice things about the crew at later points and she's nice at other points. But it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that she's not randomly a jerk a lot of other points, you know? Like that's like to me, if you're a jerk unprompted like 50% of the time, but then you also say nice things at other times, you're still a jerk. Like that's how I view it. So I'm like, I don't know why they're writing Nami like this in this season. I don't think it was like that. I think it's amped up more from season one. But if people still liked it, then people like it. I think I was just like thrown by the first conversation. I'm like, this is just mean. what the fuck? I know people are like, well, Nami's mean in the manga too, but there's a sharp distinction, which is like, and I explained this in the review, which is like in the manga and anime, Nami's not normally just mean or rude to people for no reason. Like she normally interacts like a normal person. It's usually when like Luffy will do something crazy, like, oh, we just got this really special log post from Crocus. And then Luffy just breaks it immediately. And it's like, we fucking needed that to get to the next island. That's when she snaps and blows up. In the anime and manga, she's perfectly primed to have these snap and blow up moments because it plays off of Luffy consistently doing extremely destructive and childish things that ruin things for everybody else, basically, right? So that's the comedy dynamic. Like Luffy does something really bad and over the top that fucks over the crew. Nami snaps at him. That's good, right? This is just asking basic questions like, how does the Grand Line work? You don't know how the Grand Line works? What are you, a fucking idiot? It's like, I'm not the fucking navigator. That's the vibe that I get from here. And it's not that Nami's too serious. Being serious is fine. Like, Zoro's serious. But Zoro's not just a dick to other people who ask questions or start conversation in this show. Except to Sanji, because he and Sanji have that dynamic. Tetrahedral Milk, thanks for the 2. What do you think about Usopp this season? What do I think about Usopp this season? He was really, really, really good. I don't know why I have to think about that for a second. Usopp was phenomenal this season. Jacob Romero Gibson, he was my favorite character this season. Can we get the stream likes up to 50 real quick? I'll say this. So season 1, I think we needed this. So season 1, I think one of the biggest things missing that was desperately needed was Usopp versus Chu getting the writing that it had in the manga. I get that they had to shorten things for time, right? But Usopp versus Chu is one of the first arcs that like Usopp essentially has the best fight out of any of the Straw Hats, I guess, except Luffy in Arlong Park in the anime and manga. Like, he has a really good character moment, great fight, most uphill battle, yada yada. And it does a lot for selling, like, that's the first moment where he has to actually step up and do something that's truly, truly impressive. In Syrup Village, he's good by the standards of like a normal person. He does like, he steps up, he's brave, but the Chu fight is really like Usopp, like having to stand up and do something superhuman when he himself is just a human. And then you see so much of his character there, and him acknowledging like the level that his crewmates are at, and how if he's really going to be one of them, what he needs to be like, all of that. So I think the Chu fight was very, very important for bringing together Usopp's character. I don't think we got enough in Syrup Village through the end of season 1 to really make Usopp as endearing as he was by the end of East Blue in the manga. I don't blame the live action for that at all. Again, just time constraints, right? They had to fit in 100 chapters. But I think Usopp is the most sorely missing from that. I think his comedy wasn't that good in season 1. I think season 2, two things happen. One, crew chemistry is there, right? So the crew chemistry is really good in season 2. So like Usopp really shines in the flow of crew chemistry moments, just all of them hanging. 2, I think Jacob remembers Gibson's either his delivery, my delivery is bad. Either his delivery or flow is better with the jokes that they're giving him, or I don't know what it is exactly, but it's really good here. I think it's really, really consistently, he's consistently at least entertaining, if not laugh out loud funny. But 3, he actually gets character stuff that is strong. Like, he gets character stuff that is strong here. And he becomes like the most moving of the Straw Hats, in my opinion, by the end of the season. Isaac Gavey7762, thanks for the 5. I hate how they took every goated moment of Sanji and gave us slapstick or cheap sympathy bait. They made him look less capable than he is. I don't think they're doing Sanji justice here. Because he got robbed of a lot of the Baratier writing. Okay, here's the thing. If you're a Sanji fan, number one, there is the positive side of things, which is that Sanji is an infinitely more likable character here to the average person than he is in the source material. That's just the way it is. He's pretty much all of his abrasive personality traits have been completely removed, and instead he's like actually this smooth, suave, charming dude who's kind of the most normal of the Straw Hats. I think that's kind of what his vibe has been so far. He's like the most normal of the Straw Hats. His only thing is that he's got a soft spot for girls, for romance, right? But not in like a weird, overly creepy or like embarrassing way. It's pretty normal, right? They're keeping him very grounded. He's the most grounded and normal of the crew. So that's one bonus, right? The flip side, I would argue, is... Did they remove... I think they in Drum King... Okay, so... Part of the trouble is the Baroque Works storyline, until Alabasta, gives Sanji almost nothing to work with, because he doesn't do anything in Loketown, like outside of get stomped by Smoker. He doesn't do anything in Reverse Mountain. He sleeps through Whiskey Peak. He does not participate in Little Garden. He is disabled for all of Drum Kingdom. So the show actually gives him significantly more to work with here, because what the show does is gives him some more action, a little bit more action in Loketown. It gives him a fight against Mr. Nine in Reverse Mountain. He's still out of Whiskey Peak, but then he gets an extended fight. He gets to fight the T-Rex with Zoro, which is actually cool for the live action standards, because in the live action, everyone is scaled down. So actually, Zoro and Sanji taking care of a T-Rex in the manga and anime is like light work, but in the live action, I don't think it's even been shown at this point that they can beat Sea Kings. Like in the anime, Luffy beats a Sea King in chapter 1. I think I don't think in the live action it's been shown yet that these characters can do feats like that. So Sanji and Zoro actually teaming up to take out the dinosaur, that's cool for Sanji. And it does draw some parallels between him and Zoro right there. And then he gets an extended fight scene against the Unluckies in Little Garden. And then in Drum Kingdom, he actually gets to participate in the final battle of the kingdom and takes down Wapple's henchmen, right? Alongside Chopper. So he actually gets to do, it balances out a little bit. He gets to do a lot more in the live action than he did in the anime and manga. If you wanted Sanji's role to be the same as in the anime and the manga, then you're essentially removing like all of his fights from this season. He's almost irrelevant for the season. But you could argue that the fights and moments that he's given make him seem less capable, right? So he's given more to do here, but you could argue it's downscaling him. You could argue that he should have taken care of Mr. Nine a lot more easily, right? But Mr. Nine is also made to be stronger here than he was in the original, right? Like, keep in mind, Zoro had an extended battle against Mr. Seven just last season, right? So Mr. Nine's not that far down. Zoro obviously fights Mr. Nine as well in this season. I think Mr. Nine against both Zoro and Sanji, it's clear that Zoro's stronger than him, Sanji's stronger than him. I think Zoro looks more impressive because he beats Mr. Nine alongside a shit ton of other Baroque Works agents, but he takes care of them first, and then he gets to Mr. Nine, and then Miss Monday gets involved, yada yada. But I don't think Sanji looks like he beats Mr. Nine, right? So that happens. I don't think it's like an embarrassing showing for him. And then the Unluckies he should have beaten easier. I think that's not good. But I think it's balanced out by the T-Rex thing. Because keep in mind, by live action standards, Zoro and Sanji taking out the T-Rex, for a live action viewer, that's one of the cooler things that they're going to do. It's like, holy shit, the Strawds can beat T-Rexes. That's crazy. You know, they can beat dinosaurs. And they talk about that a lot. They reference the T-Rex fight throughout the arc, you know? So I don't think that's a bad showing. I'd say showing that Sanji and Chopper seem comparable, and low-key, it looked like Chopper might have been better. In the final battle, I think that's not good. But I would raise you this, all right? If you go back to season 1, it was pretty much the exact same scenario, but this time it made Sanji look good and made Zoro look worse, okay? Because at the end of season 1, we had the same thing, which is Luffy's off fighting the boss, Arlong, and so Oda instead had, or not Oda, in the show, Zoro and Sanji are doing a team battle against the main henchman, Kurubi. Sanji looks better in that fight against Kurubi. Why? Because that was Sanji's like big debut fight in the season, right? Zoro had already gotten a lot of fights, so like they let Zoro take the backstage, and then Sanji really got to shine against Kurubi, right? In season 2, it's similar. Like that's Chopper's debut fight, so they want Sanji to get in on it, but they ultimately want Chopper to look really good. So you can argue who looked better in that fight. I imagine people are mad in the first place that Sanji and Chopper even looked comparable, but it's Chopper's debut fight, you know? It's his debut fight in the story. They're gonna want to make him look good, right? So I feel like if you're a Zoro fan at the end of season 1, you might have been annoyed. It's like, well, Zoro should be stronger than Sanji. Why are they being shown like on equal footing or roughly whatever in the final battle of the season? You know, it's like that's his debut fight. He needs some shine. Zoro's fought like 50 people this season already. It's the same thing here, you know? It's like, yeah, like that's the best that Chopper's gonna look in the live action. It's not like the showrunners are confused, like, is Sanji stronger than Chopper? They need to make Chopper look good here. It's his first time fighting, right? And they wanted to give Sanji something, and they don't want it to outshine Chopper. It's very simple, you know? Like, in next season, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Mr. 1 fights Zoro, Mr. 2 fights Sanji, Chopper fights Mr. 4. It's pretty straightforward, you know? The Mr. Prince scene was bad. I don't know why they did the Mr. Prince scene like that. But I liked the rest of the scene too. I thought the Unluckies fight scene was one of the high points of the season. They should have made Sanji hurt as he was in the anime and let Chopper shine like that. I think they still wanted to give Sanji, because like Sanji just has so little to do in the season, right? He has just so little to do that they wanted him in fighting shape. They wanted him to fight in the final battle, you know? But you're right. They could have clarified that, well, Sanji's injured. So, you know. Why did you think Mr. Prince was bad? The how do I say this? The manga and anime makes it a moment. So like sometimes like because it's a moment that's going to be called back to in Alabasta, right? Where Sanji's on the phone with Crocodile again in Alabasta, and he's like, "Yeah, it's Mr. Prince again," right? So if it's a recurring moment, then you need to draw the viewer. Yeah, you need to make sure the viewer doesn't like forget it, right? In the anime and the manga, like anime, let's use that as the example, right? There is like Mr. Prince is treated as, you know, a clear declarative line that seems like intentional, if that makes sense. Like it's not a huge deal, but like it's stated in a way that, you know, a viewer might mentally, subconsciously remember that Sanji happened to say Mr. Prince for some time later. I personally feel, and again, I'm not a live action viewer, so I can only speculate, the way it's done in the live action, it kind of flies by a little bit, and it's almost a mumbled line, like Sanji's just saying whatever the fuck. So I guess the real test of like, was it done properly will be when we get to season 3, and whether live action viewers are confused when Mr. Prince is brought up again, you know, like the statement, Sanji stating that he's Mr. Prince, you know. That's all. Like it maybe everybody, maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know. Maybe terrible is too far to say. But I think you want a better shot for Sanji saying that, and you want the dialogue to be a little bit sharper, cleaner, in terms of like how it sounds. That's just my thought. Might be wrong. Kings or Awful? Kings or Awful? Kings or Awful? Maybe that's what you're trying to say. Kings or Awful? Thanks for the 2. I prefer One Piece live action Sanji to anime Sanji. Yeah, like I would say if you're comparing him to like post time skip Sanji, for sure. That dude is no fun to be around for the most part. Yeah, One Piece live action Sanji is just like a very likable character. I don't know what to say. He's just a very likable character. He's just a normal, good-hearted dude that, you know, likes the ladies to some degree, but not in, like, I wouldn't even say it's so much that you would even call it one of his primary personality traits. If anything, the fact that he's, like, you know, somewhat flirtatious or whatever, like, it only stands out compared to the other Straw Hats that he's with in the show, who are basically asexual. You know, they're basically asexual. So, you know, the fact that there's one dude that's like a red-blooded human on the crew just makes him seem more sexual than the rest of the crew. But it's really only in comparison, you know? So, the One Piece live-action version of Sanji is just, I don't know. In fact, I feel like there might be some whiplash. If you're like, imagine just like a normie-ass normie watching the One Piece live action, and you're like, you know, you're enjoying it or whatever. You're watching the One Piece live action, and then you're like, I really like this show. Let me try the source material. And then you go to the source material, and then you're like, my favorite character is Sanji. He's just like a good dude, kind person, gets along well with everyone. Just the most normal and grounded member of the crew. That's my character. I wonder what he's like in the source material. And then you open it up, and then you're like, does he have like a nose problem or something? Like, what is going on? Like, why is there blood everywhere? Why is it hard eyes? Why is he trying to peep all the time on women? What is going on? Like, your brain would break. You'd be like, this guy sucks. I don't know. Monkey with stick. Thanks for the 5. Do you think Roger's egg is retconned at this point? I think Oda had the idea of Nidhogg or Uranus for it, but then he made both of those something else. I don't think that is... No, if anything, I think that those things are even further proof of like, holy shit, because everything's tying back. Even God Elbaf mentioned in Little Garden is tying back here. Like, if anything, it's even more certain that Roger's egg is something. Unless Oda was just trolling, because that's also a possibility, you know? But I really doubt it's a retcon. I think there's no chance it's a retcon. Also, let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick. Are they being bad? Oh, is he being bad? No. Okay. Oh, are you being bad? Oh. Oh. He doesn't know he's being... he doesn't know he's being punished. He was sent into this room. You think live action will be more similar style to movie 6? Is that Baron Matsuri? I don't know. I don't think they've got the serious... Like, I don't think they've got the command of a scene's tone to even do something like that. Taz is Sanji without the spice. Yeah, you could also argue... Here's the flip side. You could argue that part of what makes the character unique is gone, so the character is overall more likable, but maybe having those edges and those striking personality traits are part of what make them more memorable in a sense. I don't know. Real ones remember the Luffy egg theory, which is still not disproven, by the way. It's still entirely possible. Michael Mouton, thanks a lot. Yo, I'm from CPT and I'm from CPT and set PA. Oh, you're a production assistant on the season 1. And what the fuck? And I'm a featured extra on season 3. All I can say is that the set pieces are still leveling up. Happy people like the show. All right, everybody shout to Michael. Everybody shout out to Michael. He's part of the production here. Please take no offense to any of the critiques that we mention here, but feel free to feel good about any of the good things that we mention here, because you were part of that. I still like anime Sanji more. I still like, and it's hard to explain. I still like anime Sanji more because I have the attachment to that character. But in terms of just like simple, basic, like layman impressions, I think that the the One Piece live action Sanji is written to just be a very organically likable dude, I think. Gobble these nuts! Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Glad you enjoyed Kagurabachi. Paneling is so fire. Live action Sanji's fits were ass. I don't know about that. I never really thought too much about... I don't know. Aren't they all like generally copying some of the Straw Hats things? Also, I would add that I think one big thing that the live action has done for Sanji, this is a really big thing, is that Oda very obviously in the manga has a preference for Zoro over Sanji. It's a very blatant preference. As such, even though Zoro and Sanji bicker a lot in the manga and anime, it's a little bit one-sided in that Zoro tends to be the one, like if they have a little argument, there's generally two outcomes, which is like the argument just kind of carries on in the background or something like that, or it's just like them slinging insults with no real whatever, or it's an argument where Zoro gets the last word. Okay, so those are kind of the two options. It's like either it's like a vague up in the air draw, or Zoro kind of gets the last word and Sanji kind of he's the butt of the joke at the end, or it's a general broad thing where it's like an overarching thing where Zoro gets to look cool and Sanji is feeling made fun of. Like, for example, the continuing bounty jokes that happen, right? Like, Sanji doesn't really have an answer to the Mr. 4 joke that, like, that Zoro kept laying on him for, you know, the last arc and a half, right? That's usually how things go in the manga and the anime. Like, they bicker a lot, but it's not like, there's sometimes where Zoro gets the upper hand, sometimes where Sanji gets the upper hand. Usually it's like, okay, no one got the upper hand, or Sanji comes away looking like the butt of the joke, or Zoro got the last word, or whatever, right? That's generally the case. The live action evens it out. I would say it's possible. I wasn't really keeping track, but I think that Sanji has the sharper... He's obviously the wittier character, both in the manga and in the anime, or sorry, in both sources, but because Sanji's more cool-headed here in the live action, I think he gets the last laugh or the sharper joke in more of their exchanges than not in their little bickering moments. So that's also like just an added thing that makes probably the One Piece live action Sanji kind of a leg up on the manga anime counterpart. So Gobble These Nuts, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for so long, man. I hope you enjoyed the podcast that just came out. And yeah, Kagurabachi's paneling is really, really good. Like, I'm telling you guys, so Kagurabachi, this is something that I don't want to derail it to Kagurabachi, but I'll just say this very quick. In terms of action paneling, it has the coolest, most dynamic action spreads consistently that I can think of in a shonen manga. And then I would also add that just the way that the fights are drawn, and then how fluid they are, and the crazy choreography that happens as it continues. Like, whenever Kagurabachi is adapted to an anime, it will require a top-tier team to do the animation. Like, an absolutely top-tier team to do the animation, because it's one of those where it's similar to how people talk about how, like, One Punch Man is drawn in such a manner that the anime would really, like, unless you've got a top-tier animation team, they're going to struggle to adapt it properly, to even do close to the justice of the manga. This is a very similar situation. Obviously, One Punch Man Season 2 and especially Season 3 did not live up to that. But this is one of those situations where Kagurabachi is just one of those manga where if you do not have a top-tier animation team, then kind of the essence of what makes it... Not the essence of... A large part of what makes it really, really great is lost. Because I'm reading some of those fights and I'm just like, this would be very, very hard for an animation team to do justice to. Like, they're that good. Like, really, really hard. But I believe that with its popularity and everything, that should hopefully be, like, a good adaptation should be on the horizon. I know that it's not a guarantee that just because a manga is popular that it then is given a good animation studio. But, you know. Isaac Gavi, thanks for the 2. Would Sanji less more him calling Luffy a monster? Oh, you're saying that Sanji should have told Chopper that Luffy's a monster as well? Yeah. Like, we're missing that line? Yeah. Because Sanji does a lot to make, like, crewmates feel welcome. Like, or, like, assuage some of their fears and insecurities. Like he did with Chopper, like he does with Usopp later on in Enies Lobby. Ignorant Weed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 27 months. Nami was really bad this saga. Look at chapter 158, what she did to Chopper right after when she gets her clothes. She manipulates lashes, bullies Zoro for 300% interest, avoids paying for the climate attack. Yeah, that's probably one of Nami's more... she likes to use people, and she's not the nicest in the manga and anime either, so I shouldn't pretend that that's the case. But in the manga and anime, I think that a lot of those moments can be played off as jokes, even if kind of mean jokes. Whereas in the live action, I think having a character who's just always sullen and always just saying mean things to the crewmates, I think that that's kind of, I don't know. I think it comes across a little differently in live action as well. Dare Boppler, thanks for bringing a Yonko tier member for 15 months. In a fair 1v1, Wapol have straight up killed Luffy mid-diff. Will there be a training arc in Season 3, or is Wapol just strong as a warlord? Or is Wapol just as strong as a warlord? I mean, they scaled up Wapol's difficulty, but I also got the sense that Luffy, like, wasn't as serious fighting Wapol in, as he was against Arlong. Like, a lot of his attitude, even from the start, was just like, I'll just kick your ass, I'm just doing my stretches, like, get your stuff out of the way. Like, I got the sense that Luffy was kind of not treating Wapol that seriously. Like, okay, so this is a trend throughout the One Piece live action. It was the same in Season 1 as well, which is like, Luffy, Luffy's written... He's written kind of like how Superman is written in comics. So... Superman in comics, lots of times it's Superman's in fights where you get the sense that, like, okay, if Superman went all out, he probably should beat this guy. But because of circumstances or whatever, it's just not really going that the way. And it's not like Superman's, like, clearly weaker or going to lose or something. But, like, there's spots where, one of his fellow Justice League members swooping in to give the assist or something makes sense or whatever, right? So you look through One Piece live action Season 1, that was the case, like, from fucking Axe-Hand Morgan, Axe-Hand Morgan, you got the sense that Luffy could maybe do it by himself, but, like, it was a whole duo battle with Luffy and Zoro, like, it kind of felt like, okay, they're both getting to show off what they can do. Same thing with later on with Buggy, right? Like, Luffy he wasn't really taking down Buggy by himself. It became like a whole team effort. Everybody kind of pitched in to do it. But then, like, by the time you get to the finale of the season, where it's just Luffy versus Arlong, and Arlong is very clearly made out to be the strongest character, the strongest villain of the season, right? Then once it's time for Luffy to, like he's just 1v1, and in that scene, Luffy's, like, really angry, enraged, etc., and he's kind of pulling out all the stops, and he does beat Arlong one-on-one, right? So by the end of the season, nobody's sitting there thinking like, I think that Luffy couldn't have beaten Morgan, or he couldn't have beaten Buggy. Like, it's made very clear over the course of the season that Luffy could have handled those guys by himself too. It's like the Superman comic. Like, I have a feeling that the live action is going to be written a little bit like that. Like the Superman in comics, right? Where it's like, like, he should fucking fuck up Solomon Grundy or whatever the fuck by himself, but it's villain of the week stuff. It's just not going to happen every time. But then, like, you really put him in a room and it's like, all right, Superman, today you got to beat Darkseid, which in itself sometimes is PIS, but we're not going to get into that. It's just like, Superman, today you just got to beat Darkseid. And he's like, all right, let me roll up my sleeves and do it, That's the vibe I'm getting with the One Piece live action. So, look, Luffy was treating Wapol kind of like a joke. He did that from the start of the fight. It did get to a point where Luffy's like, all right, this is not good, and his friends came in to help him, but I don't get the sense that was Luffy, like, fighting as hard as he was against Arlong. And then the other thing to remember is, like, that doesn't mean that Wapol's as strong as a warlord. I don't know if you remember, but Alabasta Luffy is way stronger at the end of the arc than he was at the start of the arc, and there was no training arc. Like, Luffy from round 1 against Crocodile to round 3 against Crocodile, totally different characters regardless, right? So how Luffy does against Wapol is irrelevant to the Crocodile fight, because Luffy's going to lose against Crocodile multiple times, right? Like, the end of Alabasta Luffy is going to be a lot stronger. Remember, pre-time skip One Piece didn't have training arcs. Characters just, like, would off-screen get stronger. They would get stronger through trial and error, or, like, multiple fights and stuff like that, So the Wapol fight's not really relevant to how Luffy will do against Crocodile, because Crocodile's going to be way stronger than Wapol, Like, if I were to... Let's say I'm a live-action only viewer. If I'm a live-action only viewer, then my perception right now of the scaling is Luffy at this moment in time is about comparable to Mr. 3. And Wapol is about comparable to Mr. 3, give or take. That would be my perception as a live action viewer. Maybe I would perceive Wapol as even a bit above Mr. 3 or whatever, but I clearly understand here that now there's like at least Mr. 2, Mr. 1, Nico Robin, Crocodile. Like there's other people coming next season that are going to be stronger than what the Strats are up against right now, you know? Let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Dylan's Mariah's 3592, thanks for the 5. What do you think about Dory mentioning God Elbaf? That line was pretty much word for word the same. Not mentioning God Elbaf. That line was pretty much word for word the same, but God Elbaf was replaced with the gods. Because I think it's just like the show is not trying to do big exposition dumps the same way the manga and anime does. So I explained this a little bit earlier, but the sun god is kind of the big one that is going to need to be reiterated multiple times throughout the story, because even for us anime and manga fans, like when the sun god and Nika and all that stuff became a huge deal in the middle of Onigashima, and like we're hardcore people who are like, you know, people who are watching YouTube videos on One Piece, rereading the series, rewatching the series, etc., probably going on Reddit, stuff like that, right? Even for hardcore fans, the Sun God and Nika stuff was like kind of out of the blue. And it was like, oh, wait, if we go all the way back to Skypiea, it was mentioned like in one chapter or something like that, right? And like when Luffy was revealed as the sun, like to have the Nika fruit, literally nobody guessed that, you know? Nobody guessed that was his mythical zone, right? Or it was his zone, right? So with all that in mind, it's like the show wants more clarity for view. Like you want to trim the fat to like simpler things for people to consistently remember, right? So that's why they plant things like God Valley ahead of time. Like they're going to want to repeat these names a few times so people get used to remembering that these things exist in the story. Like the warlords, I think, were mentioned in this Reverie again, right? Like the Revolutionary Army is probably going to get more mentions. I think even in season 1 they were mentioning that. Like they want repetition of concepts so that we like when they come back into play, it's more clear, right? You don't want to confuse viewers too much with multiple gods like God, Elbaf, etc. Just start planting the concept of the sun god and just stick to that. I think that's better for TV writing, if they're afraid of sitting down and doing long exposition bits. JP, thanks for the 10. I do think the set cheapness is a challenge from having to make so many one-and-done sets. Other shows make a lot of sets, but they reuse them over multiple seasons, justifying budget investment. That is a great point. That is a very insightful point. I can only critique what I see. You can get into like, well, we should give them a pass because they can only afford this much, etc. But I can only critique what I see, right? So it's not like participation trophies where it's like, okay, Whiskey Peak looks really bad, but, you know, they only had so much money to make it. So let's say it's good. Like, you know, you get an A for effort, right? I'm just judging it by if I had never seen this show before, I'd be like, okay, these sets don't look as good as sets in comparable shows, you know? Tapio Treviso, thanks for the 2. DC Alternate Universe, Animated Universe. Is it DC AU? Chaos Magic, Grundy, Negative Superman, and the Justice League Unlimited. Okay, I don't want to get into every iteration because, like, you could probably find versions of, like, Metallo that are so strong that the entire Justice League can't beat him. That's one of the reasons I fucking hate comics because, like, it's like, who's stronger, this character or this character? And it's like, well, in issue number 45 of Elseworlds or whatever, this character got power over, like, Mr. Mixie-Plitzix's or whatever abilities and something like that. And if we use that version, then it's like, I don't give a fuck, all right? I don't care. Just tell me what they're normally like, you know? Yes, read Kingdom. It's amazing. I was thinking about reading Kingdom yesterday. I was thinking about getting into Kingdom. I held back just because I was like, this week's going to be a very busy week for me. We are moving, so soon you will see me in a new location. So this week's going to be a very busy week. I was like, if I get hooked on Kingdom, I will kill a lot of time. So yesterday, instead, what I did was I binged all of Fate Strange Fake. Great action in Fate Strange Fake. Great action. Great action. I know, I was referencing an Emperor Joker, like when Joker stole his powers and stuff like that, but That's what I mean. Like, it's like, well, what about this version of like Blue Beetle or something like that? It's like, I don't care. All right. Hockey killed power scaling One Piece? No, it made it a lot easier. Aphotic Blaze says, everyone talks about how good the sets look. Morge is the only person I've seen say they don't look the best. I think the sets look good if you're like a One Piece fan and it's like, oh, that's cute. Like, they did a cute job recreating. I think Little Garden looks really cool, and I think Reverse Mountain looks really cool. But like, other than that, I'm like, oh, they did a cute job recreating like the feel of a town in Whiskey Peak. But I'm saying, like, if I'm not a prior One Piece fan, I'm just like, this town looks like shit. That's basically, like, I said in my, and I literally posted a clip as comparison. I said in my review, a lot of the sets look like Lazy Town. They look like Lazy Town, like the children's show. They look like Lazy Town. That's just the case. Like, when Hirolik runs into Wapple's throne room to give that speech, it just, for me, kills all actual drama, because it's like, we're going from like this really heartbreaking thing of like the doctor going to die and everything like that, and he's running into Lazy Town set. And it's like, oh no, Sporticus, what's going on today? Like, it's just like, you get this like goofy dressed up king on like a cardboard box throne or whatever, and then he's got like a clown dude with a bow and arrow and stuff over there wearing like a cone, and this other like, and guards that are basically like wearing Halloween costumes. I don't know. I know Lazy Town's peak, but I think that if all I can say is that I said it in the review, if you want me to feel a serious emotion, then you need to establish a serious tone, and that comes a lot from the visual look. It can't, like, I personally am, like, I'm just saying, if I was watching this and I didn't have like my One Piece bias on to kind of look past some of this, I'd be like, all right, they're trying to give this guy like a really serious grand dramatic death, but it looks like it's in a fucking children's TV show. Like a children's TV set. Like a 5-year-old children's show set, you know? It's like Blue's Clues energy here. So that's not going to hit for me, you know? You only ripped on the costumes, not the set. I mean, you can look at the review. I posted screenshots of the set. The whole thing, the set design, the costumes, the camera angles, it all looks goofy. Like, and goofy in a sort of YouTube fan-made video sort of way. Does that make sense? Boeasy Bird, thanks for the 5. Your opinion that scene direction is off is correct. HBO has way better creatives in that department than Disney and Netflix do. I mean, the simple way I can put it is that there's not a single, like, because I'm not trying to say it has to be HBO level, right? I'm saying that it's a fall off from season 1. Because season 1, I cut so much from the review, because I told you guys initially that the review is going to be 30 to 40 minutes. I cut a lot because I was like, am I over giving examples of stuff? But in retrospect, maybe I should have just kept all of that. And part of it was time. I wanted to make sure it came out by Saturday. But simple thing. So, like, I'd say this to you guys right now. I'd say this to you guys. Go back to season 1 and just rewatch Zoro and Nami's conversation in Baratier. Just rewatch Zoro and Nami's conversation in Baratier. Just rewatch that scene, okay? Rewatch how it's shot, how it's edited, how it's paced out, how it's lit. Watch all of that, okay? Find me a scene that is directed like that in season 2. You can't. Because people are like, what do you mean the scene direction was bad? Like, what's bad about the scene direction? The simplest thing I can say is that it's all very basic. Like, sometimes poor scene direction is just presenting things as plainly and in as least exciting a manner as possible. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So, like, when there's not a single scene that I'm like, this scene was directed well, or in, like, outside of action scenes, I don't think that there's a scene that I'm like, this was directed creatively. That's what I would say. I don't think that there's a single scene that I could say was directed creatively in the One Piece live action season 2. Whereas, like, season 1, you can point to things and it feels like, okay, this feels like there was thought and care behind how it was shot, how it was paced, the lighting decisions, etc. I don't see that, you know? That's all I'll say with scene direction. That's all. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it or whatever. Just be like, oh, it was great, or you're shitting on it or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think, like, if I'm critiquing a show that I like the One Piece live action, I think the simplest thing to do is, like, not compare it to the shows where it obviously can't compare, like HBO shows or whatever. But rather just what was it doing in season 1 that it's not doing now. So let's take that Zoro Nami scene from season 1. Go rewatch that because you might have forgotten, and then tell me that there's a scene that is directed in that manner in season 2. I don't think that's the case. I think there was one really great shot, which was the moon shot, the straw that's coming down with the moon backdrop. But and Chopper and Hero look staring at them side by side. So there was 2 really good shots. The first moon shot of everyone coming down, I don't give as much credit because that's pulled straight from the manga, so they just had to like copy paste. I mean, they obviously had to recreate it in live action, which is very much more difficult, but in terms of like coming up with it. JP, thanks for the 5. Okay, bro, I gotta ask. It's been like 2 years since the tentative date you promised. What's holding up the Wano analysis? Thought you had the script done. I had the script done in terms of a first draft. What I don't want to do is sit down and go through that draft and turn it into a final draft because it's not... I've explained this before, but for me, it's not something that's... There's no... It's a very big video and I don't feel passion for it anymore, right? So, like, I work better when I feel, like, actually invested in working on what I'm working on, right? So, like... When Egghead Island finished, I really liked Egghead Island. I wanted to make an analysis video on that right away because I liked that arc a lot. When Rox's backstory was wrapping and the Rox and Harold stuff was wrapping, I dropped 2 videos covering that, like 2 character analyses covering that because I liked the writing around all of that, right? With Wano, my initial burst of like my flurry of writing for it came after the arc ended because I hated the arc so much. So I wanted to get out a video on it. 2 things have happened since then. 1, a lot of time has passed and One Piece has gotten a lot better. I don't feel as fueled, but like it's harder for me to be fueled by negative emotion over a long period of time than positive emotion. Like positive emotion fuels you for a long time because it's just like Any Slobby, Marineford, those are my 2 favorite One Piece arcs. Like, even though they ended so far back, I still wanted to make analysis videos of them because those are, like, some of my favorite storylines ever in, like, storytelling. Any Slobby is probably my favorite storyline of anything. So I've always wanted, like, that's not going to fade. I'm always wanting to, like, I've always wanted to do arc analyses of those, so that's why I did those, even though, like, I read those arcs, like, decades ago, right? With something I dislike, like Marineford, at a certain point, not Marineford, Wano, at a certain point, it's just like, it's just, I don't feel that same hate towards it anymore, because it's just, like, easier to, you just don't think about it at a certain point. So that's number 1. So I'm not fueled by that, like, for you to, like, really feel sustained hate for something, it has to be something that probably, like, I don't know, murders your family or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, that, like, actually you want revenge, right? Like, Wano's just an arc. I don't want revenge on an arc. It's just like, okay, really, really strongly dislike that, but mentally I've kind of moved on, partly because One Piece has been really good since then, and I like enjoying One Piece. Like, I like being in a headspace where I'm enjoying One Piece. It is my favorite story. So, when Egghead's going really well, when Elbap's going really well, one of the last things I feel like emotionally interested in doing is revisiting like a 40-page long document delving into like a bunch of things in One Piece that I really disliked and going into that headspace again. That's just like not something I want to do. And it feels like a big chore to edit through that whole document and do that, right? So that's the big part. And then there's phases after doing a final draft, which is basically draft is recorded, or draft is done, so then you're recording it. And then I have like, it won't be 40 pages in total when it's done because I'll cut it down. But then I've got like 30 pages most likely at the end of the day to go through and annotate line by line by line exactly. Like you guys know my videos. They have images for every single line or anime clips for every single line, right? And most of the lines are just images. So that's 30 pages, line by line, single spaced, figuring out what exact image I want to go in what exact spot. That is not fun. That is not fun whatsoever, right? Again, when I'm fueled by hate and passion, that's different. Then I'm like down to do it. At the moment, I'm really not quite as much, okay? But two, the second thing that happened, right? So that's all my personal stuff there. The second thing that happened is that the One Piece community over time, from what I have observed, has started to just acknowledge that Wano is not good. Okay? I think all it really took was Oda writing some actual good arcs afterwards, or arcs that showcased a lot more of his strengths afterwards, for people to be like, okay, wait, yeah, never mind. We were gaslighting ourselves that Wano is good, right? That was the other big reason I wanted to do the Wano analysis, because I remember when the arc ended, people were like, some people said it was great, some people were like, well, it had highs and lows, some people were like, it was mixed, it was good in some ways, some not. In my mind, I was like, it was just almost entirely bad with a few good chapters. That was my perspective. And I want to do a really big video breaking down why that was the case. But now it's kind of like most people feel that. So I'm putting a shit ton of time, effort, and like emotional investment into producing a video that to convince people of something that a lot of people already agree on. Which I think is still good, because it's good to have a video out there that just like covers everything as robustly as possible. But then the last thing is also that I know once I put that video out, then there's a shit ton of, this is the third thing, I guess, which I didn't mention before. After that, then there's a shit ton of like, I just know this, pushback, which is like, obviously comments and everything are, you know, you guys are my viewers, most people will be generally in support, but I imagine a lot of pushback in other social media platforms, which over time I've learned to like not really care as much about, but some things will just inevitably get under my skin. There are countless Oda's angels out there that are going to be ready to jump. Literally, by the way, I know there are people who are ready to jump on the Wano analysis itself. Like, there are other people who have asked. There are other smaller YouTubers who have like asked me like, when's the Wano analysis coming out? Because there are people who want to make counter videos about the Wano analysis. I don't want to deal with all that, which I will do at some point, but it's not something that like I look forward to do. Like, there's no step of this process that is something that I enjoy. Going through the draft is not something that I'm going to enjoy, because I'm going to have no passion. It's going to feel like homework just doing it, right? Annotating all the stuff for the editor, that's going to take for fucking ever. That's even less fun than the first step. I don't want to do it. And then putting it out, there's going to be a lot of just like, yeah, we agree with this. And then there's going to be people who are coming for my head for it. And then it's basically going to be a case where like, one, either look the other way and ignore all of this, or two, knowing myself, I oftentimes cannot help but want to push back again, right? So then I'm like, am I going to be making a Wano analysis part 2, responding to all of the critiques that other people have made? These are things that I think. So long story short, what's the holdup? There is no real practical holdup. There is no real practical holdup. I do want to finish the video though. That's the thing. In my heart of hearts, I do want to finish the video just to be done with it. So I encourage you guys to keep bothering me about it. That is okay. I know you guys have forced me as a punishment to, by June, put out a video defending Wano. And knowing my own personality, I'm going to hate doing that so much that I will very possibly just do the actual Wano analysis first to get that out of the way first. So I don't know. But that's all my thoughts. So I'm not going to lie to you guys about my general feelings on it. But yeah, that's kind of what's happened. Kings are awful. Thanks for the two. Thoughts on Charitra as Vivi? A+ in my opinion. Vivi was great. Like, she was great as Vivi. The number one thing... Okay, so this might not be good, but I'll just say it straight up. I do generally I'm not somebody who's like opposed to like, oh, you can't race swap this or that or whatever the fuck, right? But I will say that like for me, when it's like a comic or a manga or something that like you already know what the characters look like in drawn form, and then you subconsciously you just want. I'm addressing this part of it just to address because this is something I did actually think would be something hard for me to get past early on. It's easiest, I think, mentally to just see what you saw drawn adapted to real life, I think. So, like, I'm mentally looking for, like, Iñaki Godoy looks like he could be Luffy, you know? Emily Rudd looks like she could be Nami. Nico Robin's actress, I'm going to take a bit to remember or whatever, but she looks like Nico Robin. Like, there's a strong translation from drawing to real person cast. Vivi, that's obviously not the case because, like it or not, race and color is something that people immediately clock, right? So she does not look like aside from blue hair, she does not look like the Vivi from the manga, right? So I did initially think that that might be something that in my head is like, oh, this isn't the same as the Vivi that, like, it feels like a little bit off as Vivi, regardless of whether that's racist or not, right? I'm just calling it what it is, right? She is so good as Vivi. Like, she's very, 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 she's a great, like, how do I say this? I think one of the coolest things that happens that she does is if you go back and like read what Miss Wednesday was like in Reverse Mountain and see how she was drawn. She's actually drawn with slightly different facial structure, features, stuff like that than she's drawn as once like she makes the shift over to Vivi, right? There's a very sharp change in character from A to B. Charitra pulls that off, obviously without actually changing her appearance, but like everything, like her expression, her mannerisms, everything changes so much from before to after. Like it's genuinely really, really, really impressive. The shift is crazy to see. Even like the micro expressions, just her resting facial expression, all of it. Like, it's a great performance. And she's got, I'm going to say this, I think she's got the best chemistry with this version of Luffy out of any of the existing Straw Hats. I say that because I think that she played, so like Inyaki's Luffy is obviously written and acts a little bit different than our Luffy or whatever, right? So where this Vivi works really well, I think, is that, and her conversations with Luffy work really well, is she, like, Luffy's zaniness and his, like, outside the box and, like, silly adventurousness, right? She's playing that line where, like, she's a contrast to it in that, like, this is crazy, why are we doing this, etc., but also leaning in a little bit and appreciating it, right? So that works really well because, like, the other Strats are either, in the live action, are either, like, really sharp differences in terms of, like, demeanor than Luffy. Like Zoro is very serious. Like, Nami is very serious in this live action, right? Like, the Vivi that we got here, it feels like in her interactions with Luffy, she plays into it to just the right degree where there's, like, a good push and pull in how they act and how their conversations flow. So I think I genuinely think actually the best chemistry of any Straw Hat with Luffy here. So it's going to be kind of jarring for live action only viewers to go. Eric, thanks for the 2. Just don't do it, bro. It's not worth it. Taptio takes the 2. Man, even the Morge haters are tired of delaying. I'm being so serious when, like, there is... there are at least... I know that there's going to be at least one, maybe like 2, maybe more videos that I'll have to push back against once this comes out. So, you know, we'll see. Timmy Who, thanks for the 5. I disagree with you often, but at least you're honest with your thoughts. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. If everybody was still gassing up Wano a lot, even after Wano ended, I don't think people were really gassing it up. I think it was always somewhat controversial from the beginning. But did Morge like series 2 in general? I did like the season. I think that's the thing. Like, okay, let me get my thoughts in order. I think after Wano ended, it was a mixed reception, but there was like a lot of like positivity being pushed, etc. So that fueled things. If things had remained exactly like that till today, I would probably have gotten the Wano analysis out already. I would feel driven constantly to write it. Nowadays, I don't know how many people like are big Wano fans. I almost never see that being talked about. If anything, I see lots of people talking about how Elbaf is like Oda getting back into form and stuff like that. So like, I think my video would go a lot harder and more negative on Wano than even public sentiment is, which is kind of like, oh, Wano, it's just, it was good in some ways, but weaker than a lot of Oda's usual arcs. I think mine would go harder on that, but it's not a dead horse, but it's a horse that I think people are kind of like, they've seen the horse, they're kind of like, this horse, its teeth are no good, it's not the best horse, we've gotten better horses from this farm before, we don't really think this is the best horse, it's kind of like a shoddy looking horse. And then my Wano analysis would be me on a mission to like go out and actually shoot the horse, right? But I'm kind of like, people already view it as a sickly horse. Is there a point to trying to shoot the horse? I don't know. Especially if I go out and shoot the horse, certain people a small minor group of people who really love the horse will come out and try and shoot me. So, I hope that analogy makes sense. Anime onlys love Wano. I could see anime onlys liking Wano because, like, I've said this before. I think I told you guys this. There was like a stretch where I was kind of just like bored, so I would go back through to watch Wano fights, right? And I got to like experience them in full detail really for the first time. Wano fights are really good. They make shit look really cool. I don't know if I've told you guys this, but like I have like little side hobbies that you guys would be surprised about. But like I literally took the Zoro versus King fight, and I like the conclusion a lot, except I don't feel like I like the way it ends, which is weird. It's like a big clash where you don't get to see Zoro like cut through the whole thing, or like it's a weird first sword fight ending, but it's beautifully animated, right? So I've actually gone through and re-edited it a little bit to match more so how the manga does it while still keeping all the cuts, and I think it looks pretty good. Maybe I'll share it one day. But I love the Wano. The Wano fights are really good. They're really, really good. I could see why the anime onlys would like Wano. The problem is that the pacing is so bad. And so my views on the One Piece, like, this really bothered me because people were like, Mord, you shit on the One Piece anime, you don't even watch it. You shit on the One Piece anime, you don't even watch it. I went and I saw the best parts of Wano in the anime, which were the fights, right? And yeah, the fights had a lot of good stuff, but even the best fights of Wano had absurdly bad moments of pacing, recap, flashbacks, just time killing and time wasting and reaction shots and all sorts of stuff and stiff moments. And I was like, okay, well, this is happening in the absolute best episodes. So what about the 10 episodes between this and then the next fight, Anyway, that's also partly why I went and re-edited Zoro's fight to just cut out a lot of the fluff so that I can just watch it. And you know what? Maybe I'll do it for the other fights too. I don't know. And that'll just be my own personal little guilty pleasure. Morge made his own One Piece? Yeah, but I think I'm doing it just for the fights, because I think the story of Wano is bad no matter what. The Wano anime makes Yamato's moments look cool. And I'm just like, fuck. If I was an anime only, I could be fooled into thinking that Yamato's not a terrible character. It literally makes Yamato versus Kaido look cool and not like awfully forced and random as fuck. Random guy, thanks for the 5. I'm less confident Skypiea will be adapted next season, maybe Jai at most, ending it with the Blackbeard reveal. Yeah, I'm thinking now. I do think they're going to shorten Skypiea no matter what, but the pace it. Here's what I'm imagining pacing wise now. Here, let me show for you guys. So I think if we do pacing for next season, my feeling is that it'll look something like this. Season 3 pacing. All right, let's assume it's 8 episodes. Someone told me season 2 would be 7 episodes, but then it turned out to be 8 episodes, so I was confused by that. Vinland predicted Nika's reveal in January 2020. In January 2022, only one? Oh, that's crazy. Like, what do you mean Nika's reveal? Like that Luffy would have the fruit? Okay. So I think season 3 potential pacing would be something like I think 1 getting to Alabasta / Ace. So that's like a great way to start the season with Ace's stuff. Again, I think Loketown is the best possible way to start this season, but I think that they did that very poorly. But Ace, I imagine they're not going to mess that up at all. Getting to Alabasta / Ace. And then I think you can cover the Alabasta storyline in like 3 to 4 episodes more, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know how they want to do it. Like, desert journey plus getting to rain base plus loss in the desert plus Operation Utopia starts. Final battle part 1, final battle part 2. Jaya? Go to Sky? I could see the season, and I don't know how they do it. Final battle part 1, final battle part 2. Or like final battle part 2 / ending of Alabasta. Leave Alabasta plus get to Jaya. Jaya continued. Go to Sky. Yeah, I feel like this, because now I'm getting the feel for how they're doing the pacing here, you know? And I think my takeaway is that even more time is good, right? So I thoroughly underestimated how the pacing would go for this season. I thought it would be too long with the way that they're doing everything, but now I'm like, oh, even more time is good. I think they can do a great Alabasta storyline here if they space it out over like 5 episodes, maybe even 5 episodes. I think that'll really do justice, because like Drum Kingdom, they did 3 episodes, and even there I was like, maybe they could have. No, I think that Drum Kingdom, they did just about the right amount of time. So I think Alabasta being double that length will be good. And then you get 2.5-ish episodes for Jaya. Tia saying check your email for the video. I'm probably not going to pull up this video or anything, but I'm just curious. Thanks for sending it. Why Luffy's Devil Fruit is needed to stop Blackbeard from reaching the... interesting. Damn, so Vinland really called it. Let me click on this video. Well, this H. Well, I'll check it out later. But that's really cool that he called it. Vinland has a great voice for YouTuber. probably all Alabasta. Would be weird to leave Jai for last. No, I don't think so, because that sets us up well for the next season. You know, like, because you conclude a really good storyline, and then you leave readers or leave viewers on a cliffhanger for the next season. You know, so like season 1 ended with the cliffhanger for going to the Grand Line. Season 2 ends with the cliffhanger of going to Alabasta. I don't know. I think it depends on if they get a season 4. I'm sure they get a season 4 because this one was very... How popular was... I'm sure this season was as popular as the first season, right? Maybe more? Sorry, I sent the wrong video. Check again. Oh, okay. I was like, because the title doesn't seem like... Oh, shit. Nika Nika no Mi, Awakening. Oh, man. He got it? Damn. 411,000 views. This guy just nailed it. Vinland nailed it. That's awesome. So he's the only person who got it right then, as far as I know. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's very impressive. Eight, go to the sky. That's 50 minutes more. No, I'm not. I'm saying like they, you know. There's a section where, because like Jaya has its own stuff, right, in the arc, and then it has a lot of post-arc world building. More, do you watch any One Piece YouTubers? No, I used to watch One Piece YouTubers when I was like So I never watched One Piece YouTubers before I started my channel, because I didn't really even realize that there was One Piece YouTubers, like people who had dedicated channels. I like kind of assumed that was the case, but I felt confident that nobody was like doing analysis videos and stuff, right? So then I started my channel, because the only One Piece analysis video that I'd seen, like, in existence was Super Eye Patch Wolf had one, which in retrospect wasn't an analysis video, it was just a review. And then I think Craftsdwarf had, like, 1 or 2 One Piece analysis, like, video essays out, and then that's it. So that's all I needed to know. I was just like, okay, I'm the only one who's going to be doing regular analysis videos. That was what my channel started out as. Now it's become something totally different. But, so when I started, I didn't really look into see what other One Piece YouTube people are doing. I was just like, yeah, mine's going to be analysis focused. Then as I started like growing, then I started, you know, then I'm like, that's my fun hobby. So then I'm checking out other One Piece YouTubers. And so I'd watch Tekking a lot. I watched like Rogers-based reactions, Brago's reactions and stuff. But Tekking was my favorite to watch when I was first making YouTube videos. But then once I kind of went like One Piece sort of became like my main job, like I'm just doing it all the time, then I no longer want to watch One Piece videos, because then you want some separate, like, no matter how much you enjoy your job, you want some separation from your work, you know? Like, I imagine, like, whatever, like a dentist isn't going home to watch like dentist content creators, or maybe you are, I don't know. Maybe that's a poor analogy, but like that's all I'll say. Like once after that, then I want some separation, you know. So like content that I watch is not actually One Piece, you know. Yeah. The only like anime YouTuber that I watch consistently is actually a Bleach anime YouTuber who I've started watching recently, Mr. Tomo. Mr. Tomo, I like him. Ignorant Weed, thanks to 10. People don't want to see Wano roasted, but everyone wants to see you analyze Marineford. Any Slobby Whole Cake Island videos are all in your top 5 most loved videos, and people thought Wano video can hit same heights. I will do it at some point, but I don't want to promise a date, but I do want to finish it. You guys keep telling me to do it. I will do it at some point. Don't let up the pressure. Morge watches basketball? Yeah, but not recently. Not recent. I don't watch... I don't like watching basketball in general now, because the Thunder are ruining everything. And when there's no teams that, like, when I feel just negative about basketball in general, I don't feel like watching basketball content creators. But normally I'd watch Jason Timpf with Hoops Tonight. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Mr. Tomo carried the shit out of the Bleach community before the anime revival lull. Was he still making like a ton of videos even when Bleach was just like non-existent? Live action Skypiea would be so cool. Hope it gets renewed. If they manage to pull off Skypiea, that'd be amazing. He was, and they were great, lol. I think it takes a lot of love and dedication to Bleach to like want to make so much content on that, even when its ending was so bad. And then I don't know, like before the ending gets fixed, you know. So like, I don't know. I don't know how. That's hard. I still see some Naruto creators making videos to this day. Naruto and Bleach are living on in their own sense in that like Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War is so cool. That's why I started watching Mr. Tomo videos, because I actually really began to enjoy Thousand Year Blood War in the anime. So I started watching his videos. Great content creator. And then, yeah, Naruto has Boruto running. So like, both Bleach and Naruto are still alive in some shape or form. The difference is like Bleach's current like Thousand Year Blood War is like pretty universally loved, whereas Boruto is pretty universally panned. And Bleach has hope on the horizon with the potential of the Hell arc. I don't think a Hell arc is a good idea for Bleach. Even though it's like part of me just finds it exciting as the concept, and I'm like, I want more, I want to see more. I think it's I keep thinking about the way Thousand Year Blood War caps out a lot of character storylines and things like that, and threads, and it's kind of like you never want to make more story for the sake of making more story, because you don't have like, you've already passed the end points that you came up with for a lot of character storylines, you know. Swag Kage was the goat of Naruto. Yeah, I'd heard of him a lot. I'm surprised Tekken doesn't do Bleach stuff anymore. Wano versus Fourth Great Ninja War. I think the Fourth Great Ninja War is a better arc than Wano for sure. But I think it's worse because of its placement, like of it concluding the story. So like in a vacuum, Fourth Great Ninja War is a much better written arc. That only does that still gets a lot of things, does a lot of things poorly. Whereas Wano is an arc that I think does almost everything poorly, but has a few good points. Naruto Fourth Great Ninja War, I feel like is an arc that had to do too much right. Like too much is writing on it. And a lot of it was or bad, and some stuff it really nailed, but some stuff it, like there's just too much writing on that one, you know? So it's better it's better in a vacuum as a storyline. Like these are random numbers. Imagine these aren't real numbers. These aren't my real ratings, but like it's just an analogy, right? Which is like if the Great Ninja War is like imagine the Great Ninja War is like a B minus, or like let's say it's like a C, right? Like let's say the Great Ninja War is a C and I think Wano's a D. Let's pretend, okay? It's like, well, a C is worse than a D, but the C was the final exam. You got a C on the final exam, right? So therefore, in a sense, it's worse. Does that make sense? Like, whereas the D was, let's say it's on a midterm or something like that, or just like a very big quiz. Okay, so in that sense, the final Ninja War was worse. Does that make sense? And those aren't my real grades or whatever. Morge said Ninja War is a C or whatever. You get what I'm saying, right? Wano literally made a lot of people look down at the entire post time skip. Yeah, but that, including myself, but that's still not as bad as making a lot of people look down on the entire series, you know? Fourth Great Ninja War is a good to great arc that has to carry the unfortunate burden that is Kaguya lol. Kaguya was crazy. Because people always say like people always say that how do I say this? That he had to, like, a lot of people argue that he had to come up with Kaguya because Madara was so strong, but that just doesn't make sense to me because, like, Kaguya is stronger than Madara. So how's that a solution? Couldn't they just come up with a bullshit way to beat Madara too? I don't know. No, that was Dressrosa, Punk Hazard, Whole Cake, Fishman Island that made people look down on the post time skip. I think it was a progression. And for me, I was one of those people that I felt like the post time skip arcs were not as good as a lot of the pre time skip arcs. But for me, I kept, like, if you go back and watch my videos and streams, I kept maintaining that, like, that's because all of those post time skip arcs were build up for Wano. So, like, I made a similar argument to, like, it's kind of like how, like, once we started the Grand Line, all of the first Grand Line arcs were build up to Alabasta. So I was like, I'm not going to judge Little Garden against, like, Arlong Park because it's just build up. It's build up to Alabasta. So I would make a lot of excuse. Like, you go back, I make a ton of excuses for Wano, and I'm just like, no, Oda's just really building up to this storyline. This storyline is where Oda's setting up all the pieces for, yada yada. So this storyline is where, like, I will finally really start to judge post time skip. So for me, I viewed Wano as, like, a cumulative thing where it's like, I'm kind of like putting a pin in, like, so many of my post time skip critiques because I'm, like, holding out faith that the author didn't just get worse at, like, writing the Straw Hats or whatever. It's like, well, he's saving it for Wano. He's saving this for Wano. He's saving that for Wano, etc. Right? So, like, when Wano was bad, that threw a lot of that out the window for me, you know? But now I'm back to hoping that Oda's going to deliver in the final saga. Because there's been signs, you know? There's been a lot of signs. I still just only really have doubts about the Straw Hats in the final saga, but he's improved so much of the writing in general, personally, back to what it was like pre-time skip, and better in some ways than in pre-time skip. Anders says, to this day, I'm convinced that Kaguya was executive meddling that solely exists to set up Boruto's existence that literally came at the cost of Naruto's ending lol. I don't believe anybody could tell Kishimoto how to write at that stage in his career. But, you know, there's some interesting things. So, like, one thing I learned just recently was Jujutsu Kaisen was initially not planned to have a school setting. It wasn't planned to have a school setting. Rather, it was supposed to be like the sorcerers are like a government type agency or like just an organization or something, and people joined that. But that was pushed back against because at that point in time in Shonen Jump, like, school settings were very successful. Like, you know, like My Hero, early Naruto, stuff like that. So placing the main characters in school. That right there, that realization made me change my views of, like, Jujutsu Kaisen in general, because I was like, oh, that actually gives a pass to one of my long-standing critiques of how Jujutsu Kaisen really tries to set things up, because I was like, you know, that's executive meddling. Like, Jujutsu Kaisen has no business whatsoever being, like, a school-based story where, like, they go to Jujutsu High and stuff like it uses none of the school-based setting, and, like, it has like 4 characters in the school. It just doesn't make sense. Like, the entire setting, cast of characters, etc., all of it lends itself to the type of conflicts, yada yada. It doesn't really have anything to do with school. All of it lends itself to something much closer to, like, Chainsaw Man's setting, which is, you get drafted to the Devil Hunter public safety division or whatever, like hunting devils, etc., and then you go on missions to hunt devils, right? Like, that's what it lends itself to. But and Gege, I like to say, but was initially going to do something like that, but, you know, editors or whatever told him, no, put it in a school. So that's why he forced Square Peg into Round Hole. And it's like, all right, Jujutai, you're going to school with two other kids, and that's just. But mostly, you don't. Do we ever sit in on a class or anything? No, literally, it's entirely just. You guys just happen to be in school, and you're being sent to go hunt like curses and stuff. My Hero Academia school setting was a negative in my opinion. I think that's one of its bigger strengths. And definitely in terms of appeal. Like, one of the reasons that My Hero gets popular, like, fast is because of that school setting. Like, especially in the West. People, like, shit like Harry Potter, give us a superhero version of that. People, like, eat that shit up. People are eating that shit up since, like, fucking Sky High. Way back in, like, if you're... I guess I'm giving myself away in terms of age or whatever. But, like, people have always loved the idea of, like... especially in the West, like a superhero school. Fucking X-Men built one of the most popular franchises in history out of that, right? Like, that's an easy sell, and that's why My Hero blew up in the West really fast. I think some of its shortcomings were just inherent to My Hero's writing and the risks it was willing to take and how generic it was going to go, etc. In lots of other ways. But definitely not the setting. The setting is one of its biggest, like, grabs for a lot of people. JP, thanks for the 5. Watching Chopper episode in live action, his impossible dream of Panacea is going to manifest with the energy of the Void Century, isn't it? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I do think everything's going to kind of come together. Tapio Treviso says school field triplets kill a special great curse. That's one of the things that threw me about Jujutsu Kaisen early on, is just how fast it was trying to do its world building, that it felt like hollow to me, that it's like... it felt like it's trying to grab things like, okay, school settings are popular, so we're putting you in a school, but we're not putting any effort into, like, the whole concept of the school. So I was like, this feels kind of hollow. Like, there's nobody in this fucking school. It's just an empty school. And then they're going to fight another school, which, you know, even if you combine all the kids in both of these schools together, it makes up half a classroom. So I'm like, why don't you just put these two schools in the same school? Why even pretend that there's two separate schools? Anyway, but the school setting, I was like, okay, that's really pulled. And then the 3 great clans that we never see, if I'm like, this seems like pulled from Naruto or whatever, but there's no effort put into making the clans. And then, like, the grades, the grade level curses and stuff like that really fucking threw me, because, like, it's just straight up bizarre. It's like, okay, you've got all these grades. You got grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, grade 1, and then special grade. In, like, the first 30 minutes of the show, their mission is to go fight a special grade. So, like, they're fighting the strongest level. And obviously there's levels even among special grade, but it's just like, why even create the concept of grade 4, 3, 2, 1 if, like, the entire power system is already going to start with us working only at the top level? You know, it's like kind of speedrunning. It's like skipping the Yonko level, you know? Like, explain, like... to me, a lot of the weight of, you know, like something like One Piece or really any show of, like, kind of going up the levels is you first experience, like, okay, these are, like, the lower level stuff, and then we move up higher, and then we move higher, and then you get this sense of scale. But Jujutsu Kaisen seemed to want to skip to the top. But overall, I think Jujutsu Kaisen really found its footing. I just was hesitant about it early on because it just seemed to, like, try to skip a lot of the steps to just get to exciting. But in my mind, it's more exciting if you put in the work of, like, laying foundation before you, like, build the idea of, like, multiple clans and, like, getting to the higher level grades and stuff like that, you know? But all that being said, I'm loving Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 right now. It is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. I do low-key know... Mort is probably like 32. I'm 30. Leave me alone. I'm 30. Mr. Saturn and Lo-Fi, thanks for being a Yonko team member for 7 months. Who would you have the most fun playing in the live action, and why is it Wiper? Who would I have the most fun playing? I mean, I would love to play a character like Dragon that I know is going to be important later on. I wouldn't want to play a character that just disappears after a short period of time. But they obviously have an actor for Dragon. If I was magically allowed to be in the story, then, like, I would just pick a character that I know gets to stay a good while. If I could have the most fun playing a character, Wiper would be cool. You know what? Fuck it. I like the character enough that I might just take him for Skypiea, even if he's going to get written out very quick. Ignorant Weed, thanks to 2. Hunter x Hunter back this year. Your expectations? When's it coming back? When's it coming back? It left off at, early 2026? I'm very excited for Hunter x Hunter. Very excited for Hunter x Hunter. My expectations are just like, I think that this boat arc, whatever the next, I think we're gonna need like 2 to 3 more batches of 20 chapters for us to get through the boat arc. But he was writing on a different level for week to week before when it ended. Stars and Stripes was a Deus Ex Machina nerf so that Shiggy wouldn't load if the good guys. Stars and Stripes didn't make any fucking sense to me because it broke the whole power system of quirks. Because, like, My Hero didn't work with, like, it just straight up didn't make sense in the context of the My Hero world. Because it's a conceptual ability, and all of My Hero's abilities are not conceptual abilities. They're just, like more straightforward, like, physics-based abilities, you know? Like, Stars and Stripes basically... I don't want to spoil. Like, I mean, I don't care about spoiling My Hero. It's been out for a while, but, like, I don't want to go down a whole rabbit hole. Plus, I'm trying to come to the end of stream here. Shacker Magnus, thanks for the 10. People don't notice how much Gedge's editors are he pulled from My Hero. Gojo and All Might being pillars in their respective societies, while the entire first act revolves around the antagonist. I could play Law. That'd be good. Oh, this is 1 out of 2, so you got another comment. Yeah, that's true. That is a big pull from My Hero. I mean, it's a structure that works. Shaker Magno continues. Groups trying to steal/kill that figure, and the result of that arc informed the second half of their series after the pillars are gone. That's a really, really great point. That's a really, really great point. That's a very, very good observation. One of the differences is that, like, Jujutsu Kaisen really, really leans into that pillar and how cool that pillar is, and it builds up, like, so much of Jujutsu Kaisen is build up to that fight, that specific fight between, I don't even want to, I've been told not to spoil that fight or whatever, but yeah. It uses Gojo really well. I could play Law. That'd be fun. Josie Dirts, thanks for 2. Would you end Season 3 with the knock-up stream? I think that'd be a good place to end it. I think that paces things out really well. I could play Jinbei. Unfortunately, it would be race accurate. All right, everybody. I think we are going to call stream here. Yeah, this was fun. Let me do one last poll. How did you... Okay, hold on. How did you guys like Season 2? Only vote if you watched. Only vote if you watched, all right? I'm going to give you 4 options. I can only give 4 options, otherwise I'd also add an option, didn't watch. All right, only vote if you watched. All right, the majority of people really liked it. And lastly, if you missed out on getting one of the hoodies while they were on sale, you can head over to the One Dream Studio Instagram, give it a follow. We are doing a giveaway at the end of the month. If you win the giveaway, all followers are automatically entered in the giveaway. If you follow, you're entered in the giveaway. At the end of the month, we are doing a giveaway for one of the hoodies. You can pick any one of the hoodies that you want. So just head over to the Instagram, give it a follow. I just pinned it at the top. And then automatically you have a chance to win one of the hoodies at the end of this month. So you get to pick Ice, Light, or Magma. And yeah, make sure you get in on this chance while you can. With that, I will talk to you all later.